We are live in the Wisdom Factory, the women's section, which we call Women Matters. And today we are in the edition of March 2018. And our topic is patriarchy, matriarchy, or what? Last time, in February 2nd, we were talking about how is empowerment and encouragement. And at the end, we came to this topic and we decided to explore it a little bit. And so that we will do today. I'm Heidi Hörnlein. I'm the founder of the Wisdom Factory together with my husband, Mark Davenport, and I'm here in Italy. And now I give over to the other people who are, let's say, sorts all around the world, not all the world, but quite in different places. Who wants to come in first? Unmute yourself. Who wants to speak?
I'll jump in. I'm Tammy Lee Meyer, and I live in Vancouver, which is on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish people. And I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you so much for convening us, Heidi.
You're welcome.
I'll go next. I'm Anna, and I'm in the UK. And yeah, really enjoy these discussion groups.
I'm Gertraud from Germany, and yeah, it's good to see you again and our conversations evolving.
Greetings, everyone. It's really lovely to be here again. My name is Luna, and I'm a family constellations facilitator. I'm over on the Vancouver Island in the Cowichan Valley, and really happy to be here today for this conversation with all of you.
Thank you for the introduction. And we know that we are living in patriarchy, and still we are, although I think we are sort of getting out of it at the moment. But we wanted to know, it was actually Tammy, you said, let's explore how matriarchy could look like. And I said, oh, we already had matriarchy a long time ago. And so we already, as humanity, have experienced that. And we still, in some parts of the world, we have sort of partial matriarchy. And as I said, in Italy, in the family, the mothers have the power. And so we want to explore the pro and cons of patriarchy, matriarchy, and if these are the only options we have, do we really need to change from patriarchy into matriarchy, or can we find something else to live in the future? So I open the ring, and I think I would like you to give us a little bit an idea of what you understand under patriarchy and matriarchy, so that we know what we are talking about, okay? Because we might have quite different ideas about what it is. So who wants to go first?
I understand that these two descriptions of structures which are power structures, and because of that, they are describing the domination of one particular gender over another. And for myself, I feel that that isn't satisfactory. We're coming away from having been structure which has been dominated by one particular gender. And maybe we have small examples of the other gender, which you might call matriarchy, but I think what we need is some sort of way of partnership between all the different genders, because of course there are now more than just two genders. So we need partnership between people. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Who else?
I'll jump in. Thank you, Anna. that's I do feel that same way. I think that it's important for us to really look at the structures of power and challenge them all. For me, in terms of patriarchy, it's been this sort of extractive way of looking at the world as parts and pieces and not as a whole. I haven't lived in a matriarchy, but my intuition is that the power of the fact that women's bodies can create life is something that is really, really deep. And I'm curious as to how matriarchy would actually play out of that power in practice, in society. If we saw that, what would it look like? But my feeling is very much similar to what Anna was saying, is that we're all humans and we need each other, and we need to figure out how to share power. So for me, the matriarchy might bring to the patriarchy a more whole sense of us as all of us, rather than just the parts and pieces and breaking things down. So I would more be up for a wholearchy or, something that really held all of us and gave us the context to share power in a good way.
Thank you, Anna and Tammy. Really resonated with what you both shared. I know that my experience of living in a patriarchy has been very polarized, and I feel like we're moving out of polarity consciousness, perhaps slowly, but we are moving. The needle is being pushed, and we see it now globally with the recognition of the gender spectrum and the different ways that we're coming together and experimenting with coming together in our masculine and feminine energies. And I'm really excited about what a world would look like where we deeply support one another's gifts, whether they're coming from the masculine or the feminine, because we need each other. We need those energies together. They both have deep gifts to offer, and when we really see and acknowledge that in one another, we can raise each other up together. And so that really excites me.
Will you go next, Gertrud, or shall I? Okay. I want to take a little bit a look back into the past. We sort of started out with matriarchy in the time when men didn't know that they have a part in creating life, and there was all the power to women. And I remember the story that there was the year king, that the queen could choose the king for 1 year, and at the end he was killed, and she choose a new king. So that is a long time ago. It was. And then we lived in cyclic time, like our menstruation circle. We didn't have a linear time understanding, but it was a cyclic time. And then finally the solar masculine, let's say, came up and invented the cyclic time. And with that, history began. Before was no history because it was all the same, every year the same, or every cycle the same. And then the history created let's say, that we remember the heroes. And these heroes mainly were men, but they were also women. And our mentor, Ken Wilber, makes it very clear that women have collaborated and agreed to be in this, what then became matriarchy. And we had some good reason to be there in this sort of society. And every society has good sides and bad sides. And as we are talking about power, power can be used well and it can be abused. So we today see patriarchy mainly by the abuse of the power it has done in the last centuries, and not by the good parts of patriarchy. And this I want to have considered, that we need to open the spectrum, let's say, to what patriarchy has created. It has created the fact that we are sitting here all over the world and can talk to each other, because matriarchy, we would never have done that. We would never have created technology, because the feminine energy is not going into the future in that sense, as figuring out, trying out. What you, Tammy, describe as putting it into pieces. How did you say? That's all scattered. That's true. We want to go, masculine energy wants to go into the details and figure out the details. And this is good. But when it becomes too much, like everything, then it's too much, and it needs the counterbalance. And so my plea is for not just dismissing patriarchy, but seeing what it has created for us and trying to heal the pathologies and find a new way where the feminine energy is included in our systems, you know, without saying, oh, this is all bad and we have to abolish it. And with that, we abolish every achievement, let's say, which we have created with our participation. Don't forget, we women had a real good reason not to show up all the time and go into wars and be killed in the wars and whatever. So it's not so easy, in my opinion. I did a long introduction. I hope Monia would be here and help me a little bit with the historical vision. So I hope I tried to do it in a way, understandable way. I give over to Gertrude.
I'm just thinking about a pendulum. It's like as if it was too far on one side and then it swings almost too far on the other side. So what is the real swing that it doesn't go too far? And so I think there's always development and always something like, but could it be an lying 8 or somehow not this full swing on one side and to overcome the other side? And then I thought of Germany, the East and the West, and they were pretty different societies where, for example, in the East, most women had quite some power, and many things that, like Me Too, or that didn't exist because even girls were not, they said, no, get off. So they had this kind of power for themselves and a self-awareness. There was not everything good there, but we threw out the baby with the bathwater. So the Western part overtook the Eastern part without taking all the goodies that they had developed. And I think that's the same with us in matriarchy and patriarchy. And how can that be in a way that kind of weave together a tapestry that has this, I mean, there is a reason why the microcredits go to women, because women think for the whole, and they think about the kids and the elderly and the whole community. And the male, they realize they just want status symbols. Not that they are bad men, but they have a different thing to prove. And so there are many good reasons why we focus on what women can bring to the party, but not throwing the rest out. So there is a truth and a power and so many positive things in this hunt the deer, eros focused. And on the other side, the women focus is mother nursing her baby. And yeah, I know a friend of mine, he said they did a research on couples that were very sophisticated, even college educated, and they did almost partnership wise. And when the first baby comes, they just switch back to old style without even realizing. So yeah, what I think this partnership is a very thin layer of what do you say, fruitful and fertile soil on the more archaeal part, archetype parts. Yeah.
So the question is how partnership is seen. We think partnership for women and men, that when the equal amount of women is in leadership positions, in the highest positions of a bank or whatever, this is that's what we want to reach. But maybe not. Maybe women want to have the children and be not so crazy and work 60, 70, 80 hours a week to climb up into the chef etage. So partnership can, why can't it, it's just to throw it in, why can't be partnership that the woman is educating and having the children first, educating the children for the time being, and the man is providing? This is the old roles. Why do we want to throw that out? Because at the end, it seems that when a woman has a child, the man is still, he is free to go away. A woman, hardly. It happens sometimes, but it's not so normal. I think it is a biological thing also that we want to, if we have babies, that we want to care for them. I haven't babies, so I don't know, but I ask you who had children. How is that?
You have me.
Well, I was very interested in what Gertrude said about the women or the girls even, in East Germany, how they really were able to say no from a very early age and stood up for themselves. I wonder what it was that they had in their society which supported them to do that. Do you have any insight into that, Gertrude? Because that's what we need, obviously.
No, we don't need that. That was a statal oppression and intimidation and spying one on each other. We don't want that. But the positive effect is that...
Just saying not to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. Anna was asking specifically about women's self-awareness. And sure, there was a part of you have to do that. So they brought their kids very early into what do you call it? Cradles or
kindergarten,
nurseries, yeah, and then kindergarten, and so where they got all the fine indoctrination, but women were also Bagger. Was ist Bagger für ein Wort in Englisch, Heidi?
Was sagst du?
Bagger.
Bagger?
Mhm. Bagger fahren.
Caterpillar. They also went on caterpillars and stuff like
Women
that.
had technical professions like caterpillar driving or whatever. And when the two Germanys came together, it was like, what? A woman can do that? And little by little, it changed. So they didn't have those jobs anymore. And with the destruction of many of their companies or whatever they were called, there was no room for that anymore. And of course, they knew that they had freedom to choose if they want to go to work and give their kids away for the day. But I think we just overtook from the Western way of being without looking what is good and what could give us new ways of going with the gender part.
Yeah, and to answer the question, in the East, there were kindergartens and facilities in every factory, let's say. And so it was relatively easy. And the work hours and the work intensity was much less than in the West. And as soon as they came in the West, they really had to work to get the money. And the possibility to leave children somewhere, they were not everywhere. There are some, but not for everybody and at every time and every place. And so this was certainly a reason for a woman to not choose a difficult profession. I remember an engineer staying here, and she was from East Germany, and she has another understanding of being accepted as in the profession. And we in Germany are a little bit still sexist, I would say. I didn't find it so much in Italy. A woman, when she was in her profession, she was accepted and no sexist little things around, you know. While in Germany, I always felt, I don't know how it's now, I'm away for a long time, but I always felt that as a woman in such a profession, you always had to sort of fight a little bit and get some strange announcements, let's say. I don't know if it is the Gertra.
Well, I think it's very clear what we're talking about really is supporting people, women and men, to be authentic in what they feel to do. And I guess in their gender choice too. So that's when I talk about partnership, that's really what I'm thinking about. It doesn't prescribe a particular way of relating between people. It's much more just about people being able to be themselves in whatever way they choose, and to have that accepted. That feels like a real partnership.
Kind of want to tag on to some of what Anna and Heidi have said in terms of the roles of women and partnership, and making choices myself. So I knew since I was 5 years old that I was not going to have children. I just knew that from a very, very young age. And through my life, people said, "Oh, you're going to change your mind, that biological clock." Now at the ripe age of 48, I am still certain, and that never wavered. And part of that is that I knew that being a parent is probably the most important job on the planet, and that it takes so much time and energy to be able to bring another human into the world. And I knew that I could either choose to do that, or I could choose to do my work and evolve myself through my own work with myself and through the work that I do in the world. And so, yeah, I feel that yes, it's important to talk about having children, and that's the obvious difference in the gender roles, but that there's many people like me who choose consciously not to have children. And I think that part of that is really listening inside to what my soul wants to bring, and not falling into these prescribed ways of being in the world. And another piece that I wanted to just put in here was about a year and a half ago. I think I mentioned this in another session last year sometime. I had an experience of someone sharing a paper, some work that someone had done, and it was a gender neutral name. And when I found out that it was a woman, I felt myself perceive the work differently. And so the less than, right? And so and that is not me at all, not remotely. That's, I do not identify with that. But I had the experience of the cultural ways of being in the world, that's actually in me, and is an unconscious representation of how we think of gender. So I was shocked, when I sniffed that out. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, really? That's in me? And so I've been really looking at that and deeply considering how we carry our cultures forward unconsciously. And I think that conversations like this allow us to bring it into consciousness and really see what we all think about it, because I can't know everything. I can only really deeply know things in relationship with you guys, with others. And we create our reality together. So it is partnership, like our understanding of reality is a partnership between all of us. So I'll leave it there for now.
I want to jump in and say, yes, we are living in unconscious patterns, which are ancient. And as much as we try, even in very evolved people, it's sort of biological almost, it's so old, so long in us that we don't really realize it. And we might think differently, but when the moment comes, then bang, as you describe, oh God. So what we need to do, I think, as women, we first of all have to work on that, to really appreciate ourselves completely, and not only talking about it, but really embodying this thing. And then we can go to the men and ask them to maybe appreciate us too. I mean, I exaggerate here a little bit, but I think the main work is what we need to do towards ourselves. We need to find out these conditionings and always open them, and always becoming aware of them. And I notice that very few people do that, And
I even think that we are, when we talk about suppression, oppression, or I think women are complicit with it. There is some, I don't know if it's jealousy or whatever that might be, but it's so often the women who tell the girls not to, or in African countries, it's the old women that Caesar the girls. So it's among girls, it's among women that so many things get handed on, and I think it's up to us to stop what we don't want to hand on. And Me Too is one of them, that we just now, today, from now on, this will not be passed on. So I think that there must be a clarity in ourselves that we don't prolong what we don't want. And another part for me, partnership, I think this is freedom in connectedness. It's not just freedom, however, I don't care, but there is this being connected and free to be myself. And if we can do that, and if we can achieve that, that's really high grounds of partnership, I think.
I want to add to that. Only today, a woman who is staying in my house at the moment, she was saying in Sweden there was a gay Syrian man. No, maybe he was not gay, but he began to wanted to make makeup and things like this, and it was in the school, and that other woman was the teacher, and the door opened and a Syrian woman came in and with something and hit this guy and hurt him very strongly, because he cannot do that. He cannot change his way of being, you know. So what I want to say, it depends very much on culture. And in backward cultures, they are very much the women who maintain this culture and take care that the people don't go out and find their own ways. So.
I really want to acknowledge what Tammy shared about not wanting to have children. I found that really profound, that that knowledge of yourself from a very young age, and to be able to really be loyal to that and to your body, which is telling you that, in spite of all the pressure that we are under to be childbearing women. Yeah, I wanted to say just hats off to you.
Thank you, Anna.
Through is just that there is a very, what is natural and what is conditioned. Masculine and feminine have very different brain chemistry, cascade of hormones. And so we have that, and we can't deny that. And at the same time, we may choose to embody the feminine or the masculine. Yeah, and whether that's from circumstance or whether that's our soul contract that we're coming in with. I think I was thinking about the sort of idea, Heidi, that you mentioned of pathologies, and the sort of the cutting out of, this very sort of like violent denying of humanness that we've adopted. I mean, it seems like on a global scale, we're sort of, there's this just war on humanness in general, on what it is to be human and our true nature, our true connection with the earth. You know, so much of our sort of structure has sought to divide. And I think the question that is just now bubbling up and wanting to form in me is that, what is it that we can add if we stop focusing on this denying and this cutting out and the shaming of these pieces of ourselves? If we could instead say, what's missing? What could we add? What could we bring? Masculine or feminine, and really walk in our wholeness together. And that really, I mean, it really is, we're really looking at our shadows right now. Globally, we're looking at our shadows with what's going on. And I think that it's also asking us and requiring us to inquire within and to look at our own shadows, and to not just look at them, but to acknowledge them openly, transparently, and see one another with all the muckiness and the dark and the light. So I guess my question is, what can we add? What can we add now? And that pendulum image, Gertrude. Sort of, you know, and I wonder, I don't know what it would have been like to have lived in a matriarchy. I know that my constellations mentor and teacher, when she works in a very beautiful shamanistic way. And oftentimes when this sort of fracture comes through in the family line, where there's been generations upon generations of violence and despicable acts against women and against children, and it goes on and on and on, and we keep placing representatives for each generation going back, that she will call in a time before the fracture and a strong masculine and feminine partnership, and place that to hold that space for the healing to come through. And it's so powerful to witness that in the work. I don't know how that fracture happened. I have some ideas about it, and about food supply and going to farming and agriculture. But I don't know where, what that fracture actually looked like. But I guess what I'm interested in now is how we can heal into our wholeness.
I think the work you are doing, this constellation work, is a very powerful way for healing, and it should be done much more often. The few times I did it, I was really blown away. And last time in Germany, when we did the constellation for Germany for the past, that was really, oh. If you did that more often, something could happen, I guess. Something good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's a place where all of these constructs of who we are and what we are, there isn't, or they get out of the way in the constellation work, because it's about what is. and the flow of love and the truth of that flow of love. And so it really is, well, I mean, I call it prayer in action. It's embodied wholeness, because I witness in the work men and women who have been living this fracture, you know, in every aspect of their lives, look at each other for the first time and say, I see you. I see you in your wholeness, and I acknowledge you and I accept you. And it's so deep. Yeah.
Yeah, and looking back into what has happened in previous generations, I felt that the anger goes away and it comes an understanding of the difficult situation which everybody in the past had to handle somehow, and that nobody is wise enough to handle everything well. And for men, often was going into violence when they were insecure and when they didn't know what to do. And women normally go into silence and going away, sort of. So I found that very reconciliation with my past and my family in the past and what has happened. I sort of gained an understanding why things are now as they are because of seeing the past lines.
And I love how family constellation work and the work that Luna has embarked on aims for that whole archy. You know, we are whole, and it is a cognitive dissonance and just plain untrue that we're not. We're interconnected. We affect each other. What's happening in the world affects all of us. What's happening in us affects the world. And I feel like we all just experience it in our world, but that we're having a common experience of what is, you know, exactly what Luna said. You know, there's this isness to what's happening, and we all see it through different eyes, and yet it is common to us. And so I'd underline Luna's inquiry in terms of, you know, how do we hold space for that wholeness? You know, what are the ways that we can understand ourselves and our scenario as a whole cloth, and become more conscious of the social constructs and the cultural pieces that tell us the way that it is. I think we need to challenge those things and feel more deeply into what's actually true.
In this whole what did you call it?
Holarchy, like
Holarchy, yeah.
Oh wait, sorry, holyarchy. If it's following the same pattern, holy.
Okay. I think we have so many prescribed roles that we need to fulfill because of the culture, because of the religion, because of the family history, because of our parents, how they were brought up and think they should impose on us. So I think that freedom is necessary to be who you are, and the role you you want to play, or not even want, but that's meant for you, for me, for us. And this freedom to not fit into a specific way that people need us to be in for their own insecurity or for their own whatever they come from. So that's this. There is no woman that needs to be this way and the next one as well and the next one as well. But even if we have that different chemistry, we are completely different in the ways to express that. And that freedom should be part, so that we are not in cages that we need to be a certain way. And it doesn't matter how much masculinity one woman has and another not, or how much femininity in just all in one woman. So that this whole spectrum is available, and yeah, that we just find our place where in what combination we are the ones to be, and that in connection with other people, with partners that have that same way of looking at this. Yeah. And maybe I can just share. I have 3 kids. They're grown up now, and there was this time when I was a real mommy, when they were little, and just that. And then at a certain age, they were 3 or so, then I was full-time working, leading 4 nursing homes and really doing that male stuff. My husband was at home. And so I think not even I'm this way, but it can change during the lifetime and with whatever comes to us and the roles we choose then. So at that time, I was a lot more masculine in leading 120 people and being responsible for 600 tenants. There was another skill set that I needed than being at home and nursing and caring. So, and I want to have that flexibility and that freedom as well to change during my life.
So how would you imagine that we all could live together in a good way, and considering that not everybody has our mindset?
Well, I think that we can only affect the world from where we are and who we are. So, you know, in a sense, Heidi, this work you've been stewarding at the Wisdom Factory, this is one way to be able to show different ways of being and extend beyond just us here, of course, right? So I think part of it is doing the work inside to become conscious about the gender roles and how it presents and how we want to be in that, and deeply consider it. And I think that sharing what we think and what we think together, like this, for me, this exploration amongst us is a feminine process, because we're listening to each other, we're building off each other, we're looking to create a whole between us, and yet we're making very specific points. So we've got that masculine thing of getting to the pieces. So for me, it's about weaving both in practice. And I like speaking directly to it, because then it brings it to consciousness and allows different perspectives to be seen and felt and heard, so that together we can in our own personal ways make the changes that we choose to make, that's in alignment with us, and then take that into the world in our relationships. So it's small work, but it's big work, right? And because we're creating something that other people can experience with us, there's a part of the courage of that, which I think has its own change effect, because anyone can have this conversation, and we should be having these conversations in coffee shops and dining room tables and in our families and with our friends, because this is all changing. And but it needs to be biologized in our lives, in our bodies, in our relationships. So I think that this is one step, today, having the conversation, and it's a way of living, it's a way of being. I think for me it is.
I think I want to just sort of follow what Tammy just said and agree. And I feel like it really is about my inner work, of taking my place, really taking my place. So I'm being true to myself and my gifts and who I am. And then it's all the small moments, it's every little tiny moment that adds up to the holyarchy. I'm just thinking, yesterday I had such a frenetic, hectic day, and I had to be very masculine and assertive in a lot of ways, whether it was driving or in an exchange where I was picking something up, or but what really worked yesterday and made everything flow was that I really practiced just seeing each person that I interacted with love. And the response I got, whether it was needing to cut across 3 lanes of traffic to get over to the turning lane because I was in the wrong spot and had to communicate with other people, instead of them honking, I had smiles and waves. And I thought, it was a small thing, but I just thought, wow, today has been crazy, but I feel so connected to all the people that I shared space with today. Even though we didn't speak, we communicated with our bodies, or we shared that space together. And I think that if each of us can practice seeing presently, and becoming aware of when we're seeing through a program, or a prejudice, and first being able to just sort of witness that in ourselves, as Tammy sort of shared with the, some of the gender prejudices that we have programmed into us. Starting to just see those and then go, okay, I see you, and I'm gonna put you down, and I'm just gonna see this whole person in front of me, and who they are, who their soul is, what they are wanting to be. So it's just those little moments, I think, makes a big change.
Wrong one.
No, Now you are muted. You were not muted before.
This is unmuted. Okay. I just want to give an example of my daughter. Her daughter, my granddaughter, it's her birthday coming up. And for her birthday, she has decided she wants to buy makeup and nails. She's 12, just coming up to 12. And nails and she obviously gets huge enjoyment out of this. She puts on makeup all the time. She's constantly watching programs about makeup. It's one of the things that my daughter has found the most difficult, because for her, makeup has a lot of associations, and they're all negative. But she has had to come to terms with supporting her daughter, who's actually very beautiful as well, and wants to express this part of her in this way. And so, all these assumptions and prejudices that we have about our own femininity, as well as femininity in general, there's so many positives and negatives, and really just somehow letting go and allowing them to be whatever they are. That feels like quite profound work to do. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry I had to drop off for a moment. I really loved this call, and it's really beautiful to be able to have these conversations and do these deep dives, so that we can really paint a picture that is different, and shift our own inner perspective by really listening to each other. So I just wanted to thank everyone. I learned so much in these calls, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Gertrude, will you say a last word?
Yeah.
To say one, too.
Yes. I'm really grateful for that conversation, and thank you, Timmy. That's I could take your words as well. And I would add to say, for me, what could be useful is appreciating what is, and not what should be, and really be in contact with what's so, even if I don't like it, or I should be different, or I should think differently. And your example of your granddaughter, I think you said positive and negative. I would even erase those words to say appropriate for different occasions or different ways of life and age and whatever. So thinking of my daughters when they were little, I mean, they had blue all over here and there, and it they would never do that today. But at that time, it was so important to have all that makeup and stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. And I was, when we started, I was thinking, oh my God, what should I say to that? I don't have a clue. So we filled an hour very, very interestingly.
Yeah, thank you. And having trust in what we said earlier, I think Tammy said it so clearly, that everything is connected and that the energies don't go away, and they go you know, wherever they need to go. And so with every little step we are doing, we are contributing. And I think with conversations like today, where we try to get little pieces together or collect them from somewhere and get different perspectives. And even if we stumble and we don't know how it goes and how we really could see it better or not better or whatever, it's not important. It's important that we collaborate and try to figure something out. And these are like little moments which bring the whole discourse forward in the world. And we are doing our part. And I appreciate, I think it was you, Luna, you said you try to figure out what is your part in this in this world, in this your task. And we, more or less everybody of us, is trying to figure out what can we do, what is our contribution. And I think today we did another tiny little contribution to bring ahead, get forward the discussion about masculine, feminine, and many other things. So thank you very much. And
thank you.
If there is something which you want to add, there is still some moment for that. Just how do you say an outro? I've forgotten how we say in German. We say in German and English word, check out. Ha. So we want to do a checkout. Otherwise, we leave it here and we see next month. And I sent out a doodle to also to figure out where we want to go. If somebody has already an idea what could be the next topic, then I would be happy to hear that. Okay. So I see nobody is coming up, so I say goodbye to everybody. And who is watching the broadcast later, please connect with us or bring yourself a group like that and discuss, just talk about the things. It's communication, and talking about the things is so important and brings life and the whole world ahead. Okay, bye-bye.